Good afternoon, everyone. Caresoft Technology would like to welcome you to our ServiceNow webinar. Before we get started, I will just quickly go over a few housekeeping items. The audio portion of this webinar can be heard through your computer speakers, or if you prefer, you can listen through that dial-in option displayed on the top left corner of your screen. Please note all your lines have been muted just to reduce any kind of background noise during today's presentation. If you do have any questions, though, throughout the webinar, we have that Q&A pod on the left-hand side of your screen there. We will do our best to answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation, but if not, we will make sure to follow up with you all offline. This webinar is being recorded, and an email is being recorded today, and a copy will be emailed to you afterwards. Just to tell you a little bit about Caresoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider, delivering software and support solutions to the federal, state, and local government agencies, as well as education. Caresoft maintains dedicated teams to support our sales and marketing for all of our vendors, including ServiceNow, Google, F5 Networks, and Adobe. Our contact information will be displayed at the end of today's presentation, so please feel free to reach out, give our team a call, shoot us an email. Now at this time, I'd like to pass over to our speakers for today. We'll go ahead and get started. And Kevin, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Brooke, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you join us for the next hour talking about ServiceNow's solution for maintenance, repair, and operations. There are a lot of challenges that our Department of Defense customers face for servicing the armed forces around the globe, and a lot of customers have different needs. And so one of the nice things I like about this solution is its flexibility to support each business owner or each line of business mission owner with their unique requirements. So as we walk through the presentation today, I'll be reminded to articulate some of the unique characteristics around ServiceNow's maintenance, repair, and operations solution. Some customers call it maintenance, repair, and overhaul. I'm going to use the word operations for today's, but those two words are interchanged and can support one another. So, Brooke, thank you for the opportunity to join the webinar today. My name is Kevin Adler. I support the Department of Defense customers in the U.S., specifically the Army, the Air Force, and the Fourth Estate. I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, Sharday Ardani, who supports the Navy and the intelligence community, as well as Brian and Eduardo, who will be helping to deliver the spectacular demo a few slides after we get started in this presentation, and they'll be able to introduce themselves as we get started. We'll provide an overview of the challenges that our customers face to supporting the mission, and with MRO case in point, we'll also walk through some specific use case scenarios that we frequently see in the Department of Defense, and then we'll offer an opportunity for, like Brooke mentioned, Q&A at the end, and reach consensus and establish next steps. When we speak about maintenance, repair, and operations, really it's supporting the people, the correct place with the correct parts. It's a good summary for how the DoD can maneuver all of these different facets and orchestrate a solution, a cohesive solution, to be mission ready, so that you've got the correct people at the correct place with the correct parts in order to do their job and support the mission 24/7, 365, regardless of the location on the globe. And moving the boxes and the parts and the metal parts and the plastic parts and all of the items around really is the challenge that a lot of our DoD customers have, and that's really what we're looking at solving with ServiceNow. So when we break down the challenges that we're focused on addressing, really it's the logistics readiness. How do we enable the warfighter to support the mission, whether or not it's standing up a tent city in this slide or distributing resources out in the field, or preparing to launch with some maintenance materials. How do we support the logistics, getting those parts at the right time, and making sure that those parts are checked in, are validated, and are accurate for the first attempt? And then how do you move those parts from point A to point B, or even through to their entire life cycle? So how do you support all of the equipment? And that's really where ServiceNow uniquely has differentiators out there to support providing that maintenance for the equipment. So if there are materials such as trucks or tanks or planes or boats or ammunition, if there's any type of material that needs equipment maintenance, either scheduled by time or by usage or by distance, all of that can be automated with our powerful workflow engine to ensure that it's addressed properly and on time. And then finally, the people, the most important asset out there. How do we support global operations, enabling the people within our armed forces to have the tools that they need when they arrive, or being able to create or deconstruct buildings? And really, it's the integration of all those three, which is really what we're talking about with ServiceNow unique differentiators. So for those who can hear my voice and are familiar with ServiceNow, this might be new to you. And for those who haven't yet familiarized themselves with ServiceNow, we essentially are a workflow engine for the Department of Defense. And in terms of that means delivering one platform, one data model, and one architecture. That's unique right there. But building on that strength of delivering the power to automate the work that a lot of us do manually, or a lot of us use the swivel chair approach to take information out of one application, scoot over and put it into another application. ServiceNow has a tremendous amount of investments with integrating across existing systems of records or existing systems of investments that our Department of Defense customers have. Specifically on this slide, you can see some like SAP or Oracle, and being able to read and write data securely integrating with those systems is really where customers can take that cohesive or holistic approach to investing with ServiceNow to provide that unique user experience that's unmatched in the enterprise. So when we take the ability to integrate with the systems of record and serve as the system of action, we're able to deliver a consumer-grade experience, much like all of us on the phone, can experience at night when we're ordering from our favorite retailer online or ordering pizza from Domino's. You just fire up the app and you just make the choices that you need to do without needing to have explanation. It's a very simple, it's a very frictionless experience, and that's what ServiceNow delivers to our customers, is that frictionless experience through a mobile app, a frictionless experience through web applications or other applications that are in place today, or a lot of our customers are using Teams or Slack as a way to communicate and make decisions and to share information throughout the enterprise. So that's really the strength of our platform, is the integration and the powerful workflow engine with the user experience. When we take a look at the types of data that our customers need to classify, on the far left of the screen, we've got data for subsistence and health and comfort items, perhaps food, pillows, blankets, that sort of thing. Regardless of the types of data that the customer needs to classify, our system is flexible to support those data structures, so that you've got explosives, you've got fuses, you've got mines, you've got rockets, or you've got lubrications, you've got compounds, you've got chemicals. All of those classifications are supported based on the customer's business requirements, and that goes to a testament for the simplicity that we've put into creating an enterprise solution that can support a wide variety of customer assets. When Eduardo and Sade and Brian and I speak frequently to our customers, some of the questions that we get really are, about safety for the technicians and the folks out there in the field standing up those tent cities, and how do we ensure that the travel time is reduced? How do we track the child assets of the parent asset, so that, for instance, the soldier arrives to stand up this tent city, and that soldier or the team of soldiers or contractors has the tools they need, those pipes, those hoses, those fittings, those bushings, those ropes, those tents, the correct parts in their trucks, so they can establish the correct tent city at the right location and do it first and foremost accurately. And that's really with safety and maintaining optimal performance and holistic vision of all of these moving, like I said earlier, the orchestration of all of these tools, making it simple for those, a consumer-facing app to ease the challenge of working across these existing investments. That's really another value proposition that ServiceNow brings to our customers. So with that, I'm going to swing the microphone over to Sade, and she's going to talk about some of the solution capabilities. Sade?
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. Can you hear me all right?
Sure can.
Awesome. Hey folks, my name is Sade Ardani. Really excited to get into how ServiceNow is tackling MRO inefficiencies and using our digital workflows and automation to extend service management to these kinds of programs. So let's dive in, and to really introduce the conversation, I want to start with the out-of-the-box types of activities that are supported for this kind of service management. So the first thing, demand service and break fix. If there is a demand for something to be done, we need to go out and do it. Something's broken. I need to fix it right now. This is your typical demand repair. But this can also be a request for an installation or an upgrade as well. Then you have proactive monitoring, and this is actually twofold. So first, this allows you to take advantage of connected devices that are telling us information. So IoT sensors, for example, that can detect a drop in inventory, or perhaps that a machine may be overheating, so that a technician is then proactively sent to the site to fix the problem and prevent asset downtime. And then second, proactive monitoring, this can also be our ability to use machine learning and to look at trends of past service records to help drive more proactive service delivery. So we can analyze trends and determine, hey, you know, instead of waiting another month to do this maintenance, based on what we're collecting about this machine, we should probably send somebody out there earlier. And then this actually leads me to the next point, scheduled work. This is your typical ongoing service and maintenance activities. And lastly, we have projects. So these are your long cycle stuff. This is where you might have really complex dependent tasks. You've got multiple teams of people involved. So these activities tend to last a lot longer. Important to note, this also includes contractor management, which pertains to unifying third parties and multiple teams. So for example, if you've got a consulting project, you've got multiple teams of contractors to keep track of, bringing these teams together and allowing them a single system to interact with in terms of tracking the activities and providing updates to these external stakeholders. So everybody's looking at it from the same view. And so all of this, everything we do is enabled by the Now platform, which Kevin already touched up on, but it's really this intelligent platform that is enabling technology that allows us to do things like forming work groups and identifying locations, managing skills, having visibility into and the ability to manage inventory, bubbling up knowledge content and articles, creating workflows that drive our customers' mission teams down the path of success, and making sure that we save the DoD time and money. And most importantly, unlike other technology providers, ServiceNow is easily integrated with your existing systems of records. We can play well with others. We can literally be a process orchestration layer that sits on top of all the siloed systems that Kevin mentioned earlier as well, that people have to keep swivel chairing back and forth from, and put a workflow in front of that. So customers can, continue to use any existing MRO tools and integrate them really together in a cohesive single pane of glass, and making sure it's ready, mission ready. So how do we put a system of action to these activities? And really that starts with a work order. So work orders and tasks are what needs to be done, and these are the items that get sent off and out to the people. Scheduling is the process of finding that right person with the right skills, the right time, with the right geography, and then they are dispatched, which also allows for monitoring of how things are going in real time. There's there's got to be some insight into what's happening right now. And that's a big one for our DoD customers in shifting them away from a reactive model, but to a fully informed, proactive service model. Asset and part management, this is making sure that field worker or technician, once they've been scheduled, has the correct parts and inventory items with them to execute the job correctly. And then dashboarding and reporting, this is when management can then leverage to figure out the areas that are working really well and areas that could use improvement. So you can leverage our business intelligence system for managing KPIs. We have 400 reports out of the box. And anything outside of that can easily be configurable by either management teams or system admins, any user really. And so moving on, Kevin touched on this earlier, understanding assets are an important part of MRO programs. So anything from toothpaste to tanks, this comes back to our ability to manage assets or the products that a customer has purchased and be able to do work on them. So whether that's installations or repairs, replacements, and again, even routine maintenance, but also with that, understanding that asset in its life cycle is an important capability in these MRO programs. So if we're putting in a new equipment, starting on the left side of the screen, with the DoD especially, you don't just go in and install things. A lot of times people need to be sent out, making sure that there is space. Do we have electric coming in or the proper filters? So you usually have to send somebody out to do a site inspection to determine, is this site ready to go? And then do you have to do inspections and permitting? Do you have to do cleaning or configuration mapping? And then there is the actual installation. And most of the time, the team that does this installation isn't the one doing the commissioning, actually putting things into service once it's installed. So being sure to bridge the gap again with these teams is crucial. So once that equipment is live and functioning, how do we support the servicing and repair and the maintenance? And finally, when it's end of life, how do we decommission that? And how do we provide workflow to make sure those assets are arriving where they need to go? Many of these decommissioned assets, they need to transfer over to DLA or Army or Marine depots, or wherever they need to be for decommissioning. If they have sensitive data on it, we might have to demagnetize and shred the hardware. All of these processes to think about. So while you're managing and supporting these assets, consider the supporting documentation throughout these processes that we've just mentioned. How do you report on them? How do you track them in an audit trail setting? So understanding these different types of checklists, whether they're installation checklists, they could be training processes so that teams of people that have the skill and the hands-on knowledge of asset deployment are ready to go, safety checklists, and the types of tests that are performed over time. A part of this discussion goes beyond just ingesting and digitizing documents and forms. We're not just doing document management. We are doing data management. So digitizing the data in the form so that the form becomes the output rather than just the collection. For our DoD customers, it's data to fill in all their documentation like a flight log or airworthiness certificate or a mission ready certificate. Whatever the specific doc is, we're providing the ability for users to fill in the proper data to auto-complete that checklist in that form in the document that they need. So here, actually on the screen, I've got a DD 1348-1A form. It's a standard receiving document used to command a release and shipment of material from stock. So we want to modernize not only the data, but the experience to collect that data. So moving away from formats like this macro Excel spreadsheet format. We want to mirror the experience that we all expect and experience as private citizens, like with an Amazon experience. So instead of this page, you have tooltips that can pop up and help you auto-complete along the way. And, you know, another exciting ServiceNow innovation that's contributing to this MRO service management solution is the introduction of augmented reality. So AR is the visual assistance and guidance for field workers or technicians, and leveraging remote experts that are able to virtually see the situation and visually guide the field as if they were there in person. So this picture is an A-10 Warthog aircraft. It flies low and slow in close proximity to our ground troops. So lots of people shoot at it. You can see it sustains some battle damage in the field. And so the field folks on the right, you know, they would raise their hand and say, hey, this looks pretty extensive. What should we do here? And on the left, you'll see that the remote support personnel, they would leverage this augmented reality capability and say, hey, you know, there's actually indirect damage to that top hydraulic line in the horizontal stabilizer, and this could fail under pressure. And being able to convey that while not being on site is important. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Eduardo Coelho, who's going to show you all of this in action.
Thank you, Sade. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Eduardo Coelho, and what I'm going to show you now, we created a quick demo scenario just to showcase some of the capabilities that Kevin and Sade reviewed earlier. So for the demo scenario that we're going to use today, we're going to simulate how an aircraft can trigger an alert. So a sensor on the aircraft is going to automatically trigger an alert that creates an issue that gets automatically created and routed for approval. And before even anyone gets assigned or any worker starts, the aircraft is back at the base of the airfield, we can already start the process of reserving some repair parts, assigning, making sure that we have the right technicians with the right skill sets already allocated and on site to start the repairs as soon as possible and minimize any downtime for the aircraft. So once that initial request is created, we can route those requests for approval, send it to supervisors who can review, make sure it's an actual issue that needs to be repaired, look at team schedules, and automatically assign the work based on the skill set and availability. And we're going to walk you through those steps here today, but in reality, all of those steps could be fully automated and could be done without any manual intervention. So the steps from the time that the alert gets triggered by the aircraft, the sourcing of the parts, looking for someone, a technician who's available to do that job, all of those steps can be automated, and supervisors can still monitor, can still see what's going on, but they really can this frees up their time so that they can focus on some of the exceptions, some of the issues that really require some more attention. And then once that request gets routed, gets sent to a technician, we're going to show how the technician can use a mobile device to look up all the details of the jobs that they have to complete, pull up parts requirements, inventory, and also maintenance checklists so that they can follow certain procedures, guidelines, ensure that all the steps, correct steps are taken to complete that repair. And the goal on this end-to-end process is to minimize downtime. We're using an aircraft. I mean, this could be done for any type of assets, ships, tanks, trucks, anything any type of asset that you need to manage that requires repair. And by automating a lot of those steps, we can help minimize that downtime and get that aircraft, that tank ready to go as soon as possible. So first, I'm switching here now to my, so here we have a mapping interface that gives you a view of all your assets and the real-time status and location of all those assets. So I can zoom in here on this map, I can look up any of those assets and look up any issues, any detailed information related to this asset. So here for this ship, I can see their location. I can list out components of that ship or aircraft, so I can look at what types of engines, what type of systems they are installed in that asset, and also any history and related information to that asset. So I can view all of the maintenance history for specific assets. So if I want to look at what type of repairs, what type of maintenance work has been done on an aircraft that's experiencing another issue, I can see all of the data in one place. So I can see, oh, this is a recurring problem, or this is something we just looked at a few months ago. We may need to resolve it right away. And this can be configured to support any type of asset. So all of your assets can be updated in real time. You can see where they are, who's working on them, and what the status is for all those assets. And for the next step, I'm going to simulate here an issue with an aircraft. So I'm just going to trigger an alert that in reality, this would be automatically triggered by the sensor on the aircraft. Once I trigger that alert, that automatically created an issue that gets and started that automated workflow process to route that issue to the appropriate person, to the appropriate team. So here we have a sensor alert that was created. And then as soon as that alert gets created, we can see it allows a user to go on a web portal and see the status, see exactly what's going on with that alert. So I'm triggering those alerts based on an IoT sensor, but you can create those requests, create those maintenance tickets via a number of different channels. You can have web forms that the user can go on a web page or from their mobile device and submit those requests. We also have support virtual agents or chatbots that you can, using a conversational interface, you can create those alerts and assign them to a different team. So there's a wide variety of ways that you can create those alerts and then start the process on a repair or maintenance or any types of issues that you may have with your fleet or some of your assets. And once those alerts are created as well, so here if I update, the status on this map here will be updated as well. So here you can see you have a couple aircrafts, a couple assets are showing up as red. So that means that there is an issue, allows you to quickly see and identify problems within your fleet. So now I'm going to switch here to a supervisor view where they can see a list of all the open issues within your fleet. So within our application, we're able to create those reports, lists that help the supervisors, users who are responding to all those alerts, to all those maintenance requests, to see exactly which assets need repair, who is working on what, and have a easy to use interface where they can see what needs to be done. So here, if I pick up one of those issues that's currently being worked on, I can look at all the details on the issue, all the history, communication thread from that issue on who's been working on it, what the state is. This issue has been approved. You can have approval flows linked to all those issues and who's been assigned to. So here we automatically assign this issue to a fleet engineer and had already requested and received approval from certain commanding officers or supervisors who need to review those requests. As part of any of those issues, you can have a process associated with it. So here we created a work order linked to this issue and already assigned and started the process of getting the work initiated for that work order. So as part of those work orders, you can create templates. So for complex maintenance processes, you can have multiple tasks as part of a single work order. So here we have a couple tasks for replacing the altimeter, which is a sensor that failed, and then disposing all those failed sensors. You also can link part requirements to each one of those work orders. So you can list out all the different parts that you expect the technician will need for those work orders, and look it up to see if do I have that part in a nearby warehouse. Reserve those parts so that once the once the plane is back to the airfield and the work is ready to start, you can ensure that you have the right parts, you have the right people to do the job. And also you can associate SLAs depending on the priority, depending on the urgency of each one of those jobs. So if it's a critical issue or a critical asset that needs to be repaired right away and needs to be placed back in service as soon as possible, you can have higher SLAs that require same day service or immediate service, and that can help you manage and prioritize all the different work requests that you receive. Also, as part of our application, we have a number of built-in reports and dashboards that you can leverage. So this here, I'm just showing you a simple dashboard that can help you monitor trends on the number of the work orders that are open, or how long it takes to resolve work orders, and all of those metrics, KPIs are configurable. So we provide a few hundred KPIs and reports and dashboards out of the box. You can create your own or modify those existing metrics and reports as needed. And this gives you a real-time view into what's going on. Look at long-term trends to see if the number of requests, if they're going up, and help you identify issues within specific areas or specific groups. You can drill down into each one of those reports and see exactly the issues that are linked to each one of those metrics, those trends, and help you identify the root cause for those issues. And as part of the asset management, part management support, you can also keep track of all the different models that you have, all the different asset types that you have, keep track of their entire life cycle, all the way from procurement through the disposal of that asset. So you can track all the assets that are near the end of life, consumable items that may only have limited lifespan that you may need to replace, and keep track of all of those different items and components within this dashboard. We can integrate with external systems. We understand that a lot of times some of this information would be on another ERP system or on a different system, which is the system of record for this information. So we can get data from those applications, from those systems, and display it in one place. Also, you can look at different procurement items. So if you can monitor inventory levels, and inventory levels for certain parts, components start running low, you can automate the procurement process and automatically create those orders or requisitions to request replacement parts, replacement items for specific warehouses. And as your asset nears the end of life, you can tag them for disposal. So you can, once you replace one of those sensors or an engine or do some maintenance on an asset, and you need to send some of those items back to DLA or follow a certain disposal procedure, you can tag those items as ready for disposal and keep track of all the process to make sure that none of those items are lost, or you always will know what happened and where any of those items are. And now I'm going to switch to the view here that shows you from, so once the issue gets created and a work order gets assigned to a user, your supervisor or a dispatch manager has the ability to actually view a list of all their technicians, workers on a graphical interface, and the list of the work orders, the tasks that they need to complete on this mapping interface as well. I understand the scenario that we picked today with the aircraft, they probably not going to have to travel. They're going to be doing the work in the same location. But if you have different fleets that you need to manage, maybe trucks or other assets, that are in different locations, you can use this tool to monitor, to manage those technicians as well. As the team supervisor, Lisa can see a list of all the work orders that has been assigned to their team, a list of like what status they are, and priority, and look at the one how much work each one of her team members has allocated. The work orders can be assigned based on skill set and agent availability. So you can define different types of skills, different types of skill levels that your agents can support. So if you have only a couple team members that are familiar with flight sensors or have been trained in flight sensors, you can manage all of those skills and link them to different workers in your team, so that if a request, if a work order comes in, it's going to be assigned to one of those team members first. So you can give priority to people who are experienced in those maintenance tasks, so that they can complete the job correctly and on time. And then also the team manager can look at their team calendar, see what tasks have been assigned to their technicians, see what they're working on, and have a real-time view of who's busy, who has too many tasks, too much work going on, and you can reassign, move around those tasks. And switch to this dispatch view here. So this is another view that allows the team manager to see every task that's pending, and what their team has already been allocated on their schedule. So here I can click on any one of those tasks. And remember, this year, I'm looking at some of the exceptions, right? I mean, ideally, most of those tasks are going to be automatically assigned, automatically sent to one of those technicians without any manual intervention. So the team supervisor can focus on the things that for some reason couldn't be automatically assigned to a user. So this one here, we have a task that came in. Once I selected this task, it's going to tell me which technicians, how far away they are from this task, and which ones of them have matching skill sets that are able to complete this task. So if I'm looking for someone to install this inertial guidance system, I can see that Elisa has availability, and she has the right skill sets. I can just drag and drop that task and associate it with her. So this allows me to quickly manually override any of the previous assignments and send the task to users who have availability, or if some urgent task comes up to the last minute, I can always move things around and make sure I find someone on my team who's capable of doing that job. So now we're going to switch over to Brian, who's going to show, so now that the task has been assigned, he's going to show from the technician's perspective how the individual technician can actually look up the task and complete the work.
Great, thanks, Eduardo. So you should be able to see my mobile device on your screen.
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. Okay, so as Eduardo said, I'm going to take on the role of the technician out in the field. My name is Brian Philbin. I'm a field service specialist here at ServiceNow. I'm going to be simulating a field service technician working on replacing that altitude sensor that had failed. So I have a number of different things I can do on my mobile app. The first thing I want to do is I want to look at today's schedule. And for the 19th, the only job I have is to replace this failed altimeter. Now, I'm doing this on an Android smartphone that is actually tethered to my laptop. You could just as easily do this on an Android tablet or an iPad. If you needed the additional real estate, maybe you needed to display schematics or some kind of detailed instructions, and a larger form factor would probably be better for that. So it just depends on what you want to use it for. If you can make the application work well on a small form factor device, it's a lot easier to make it work better on a large form factor device. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this job. And the job's going to give me some details of what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to have to replace this failed altimeter. There's information about the address of where I'm going to go, what the description of the problem is or the work that I'm going to do. built into the application is a state model that says, hey, we're going to send this to the technician. We're going to give them the option to accept it or reject it. If you don't allow your technicians to accept or reject work, it's as simple as unchecking a box, and they would not even see this step in the process. So one of the things the team has been talking about is this system is easily configurable for your specific requirements. So if I wanted to drill into additional detail about the address, maybe I have to drive there because I'm off site, I can click on the map, and this shows us the ability to use device-side integration. So things like bringing up the native map on the application. I'm actually just outside of Spokane, Washington, so I was probably not the right device to give this job to travel 15 hours to do the job. There might be somebody that's located closer, but if I'd never been there and I need instructions, I've got that capability built into the application. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this job. And one other thing, if I had rejected the job, you're going to have to select a reject reason. And in this case, I'm too lazy is not an option. It's going to be something that, like I'm either overbooked, I don't have the skills, so that when it gets back to the dispatcher, as Eduardo said, and it comes back as an exception, the dispatcher has information about, well, why did Brian reject this job? I don't want to just give it back to him. I want to find somebody else that can do the job. As I said earlier, I can start travel. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the start travel button, and it's going to start a travel timer. If you don't have travel, if this job is indicated that I'm on site already, start travel wouldn't even be an option. One of the things I can do is drill into the parent object, in this case the work order. I can look at the activity stream of what's happened so far. If there were notes, if this had been passed back and forth between a sensor to a supervisor to another supervisor, etc., I'd have total visibility into that. And I can also look at the related links. So as Eduardo said earlier, I have information about what's associated with this work order task. So I can look at the fact that I first need to replace that altimeter. Then I need to dispose of the failed sensor properly. So once I've replaced it, they can go ahead and dispatch that to me. And then we have service level agreements that allow us to track, are we in compliance with delivering the service that we need to. So once I get on site, I'm going to go ahead and hit start work. And now I've got the ability to document what I'm doing. Now, I've replaced the altimeter because it's just as simple as removing 4 screws, sliding it out, unplugging it, plugging in another one, replacing the 4 screws. But it's been a little while since I've actually calibrated an altimeter. So I want to be able to go here to the knowledge content articles and say, gosh, I'd really like to see this avionics sensor calibration instruction. So we have the ability to pull in knowledge content from existing systems of record. We have the ability to house that data in our system of record, the ability to map this in so that it's putting the technician, as Sade said earlier, on the path for greatest possibility for success. So I can review the instructions on how this works. I can grade it as to whether it was helpful or not, and then that would give me information about the process of recalibrating it. One more thing that I can also do is I can require a technician to fill out a questionnaire. So let's say when I got on site or walked up to the aircraft, I wanted my technician to fill out a pre-work safety inspection. So this can either be an option for them or it can be forced in front of their face as soon as they take an action in the application. And these questionnaires can be used for guided instruction sets, or they can be used just to collect general data. So in this case, I want to know, are there any observable hazards when you go in to do the job? Now, if I pick electrical hazard, when I go ahead and hit next, it's going to say, hey, take a photo of this. It may have asked me to add additional comments, whatever it happens to be. If I didn't take that and I just hit no issues found, I'm going to go ahead and get a different set of questions. So this allows you to set up that branching logic to be able to walk through the process and do a whole bunch of if then else kind of processes, so that as a technician is going through their job, you're guiding them down the path of what the next answer should be. Again, if I say that I can't proceed with my work, well, we want to know what was the problem. So in this case, I've taken all the information and I've completed the survey. So now I can go back to my job and I can do the rest of the work. So I'm going to indicate that I use some parts. And as you saw when Eduardo set it up, there were 2 parts that are required, a 25 amp blade fuse. I'm going to say I went ahead and used one of those. And then I also replaced the altitude sensor, or the altimeter. So I'm going to scroll through here. Now, one of the advantages is if I had a barcode label on the package, I'd be able to find this item pretty quickly and be able to just barcode scan it using a barcode, which helps with data accuracy, and it helps make sure that we're tracking what the parts are that we're using, but it also makes it a better experience for your technician out in the field. So now I've gone ahead and I've indicated the parts that I've used. I'm going to go ahead and say that, I'm done. Now, one of the nice things about the integration to the device side is typing with the tips of my fingers or my thumbs is not really one of my skill sets, but having the ability to integrate with the device, to be able to use speech to text to capture those notes makes it a lot easier for the technician. Again, a better technician experience. And you tend to collect better information if it's easier for the tech to give you that information. So, replaced altimeter. And now I'm done. So now those notes are completed. They've been added to this job. I'm pretty much done with everything that I need to do. I can now go back to my work order view, and it's indicated that there are new updates. And let's say that I've done this repair and we want somebody to sign off. Maybe it's the flight supervisor or the supervisor of the maintenance group. So I have the ability to go into the parent object and now say, I'm going to go get a signature from Fred, who's the person that I'm supposed to make contact with when I'm done. Now this screen is blank. It could have any text on it you want, including the summary of the job. It could have instruction text of why we're collecting a signature. Much like the UPS person, you hand them the device, they sign on the screen, and they hit done. And then once this job is done, I have the ability to look at some related information. And one of the related pieces of information is information about the work order. So we're going to generate a PDF that we're going to electronically deliver to whoever the contact person is or wherever this needs to go. Maybe it's a maintenance supervisor, flight line supervisor, whoever it is. And it can be multiple targets. This is a generic example of the PDF that we would send out. But yours can be completely tailored to anything you want it to say. So this is where we replace paper forms with the ability to generate that output. And we collected, as a technician, I collected very little of this data, just the parts and the signature, but all the other information about the asset, the location, the date and time, all of that other stuff gets pasted in. So to the point that Sade was raising earlier about we're digitizing the process of collecting the data as time and motion data. As I'm going through my job, I'm collecting this data. Now we can populate multiple locations with this data, multiple forms. So it makes it a little bit easier for your technicians to just do their job, and then you prompt them for the data that you need to collect. And as Sade mentioned, we use the form mainly as an output device, right? It's a record of the data that we've collected. So it makes it, again, a much more pleasant user experience for the technician. Now I'm pretty much done with this job. I'm going to go back to my queue and I'm going to go work on the next job in my queue. So that kind of gives you an idea of what a standard workflow. Now I don't work on aircraft for a living, so we've kind of put together a generic flow of what you could do. And again, this is completely configurable to whatever your process is, what steps you want to enforce with your technicians in the field. The one thing I would like to show you is a little video that I put together about the augmented reality capability. So we have a lot of technicians that are out in the field. You know, some of us older guys are starting to retire and we're losing some of that tribal knowledge. So a lot of times a tech can get out in the field and they may be in over their head. So the example that we gave was a technician that's out in the field doing repair on an A-10 aircraft that was hit with AAA and small arms fire. So they've got this aircraft, it made it back to the hangar because it's literally a flying tank. And now they're looking at the damage to the aircraft and they're not 100% sure where they should even start because this is something that's new to them. It's their first time in theater. So I didn't have access to an actual A-10, but I did have access to photographs of an A-10, so I'll apologize for the quality of the video. But what he's done is requested a tech support technician to be able to assist him. So the tech support technician has a line item in their queue. They're going to fire it up and say, I'm going to start an augmented reality interaction with this tech. I can select from existing contacts, or I can literally just select from point and click. Now we're going to send an SMS to that text device out in the field. So the device on the left is the remote support person. The device on the right is a field tech. Now we're going to set up this connection, and these are just using the phones, the smartphones that they have in their hands. So there's no additional equipment required. Now I'm looking at the damage, and I'm talking to the tech over this interaction session. I said, look, I'm a little concerned about that part of the rear horizontal stabilizer that looks like it took a lot more damage than the fuselage. Can you zoom in on this? So I've got the ability to annotate on the screen, and the technician can now see what I'm telling them to look at. And now I say, look, I really want to look at that upper hydraulic line because I'm not really sure. Again, it's kind of a grainy photograph. I'm really concerned about this indirect damage. I think that's where you should start with your repair. Replace that line first, because once that line's under pressure, it could fail while the aircraft's out on mission. So this gives us the ability to do a lot of external support where you can take advantage of your existing subject matter experts that are in, the back office, they're in the training organization, wherever it happens to be, to support those technicians out in the field. And the use cases could be just about anything. The nice thing is there's no additional hardware that's required. If you've got the app running on an iPad, an Android tablet, or an iPhone or Android phone, we just use the camera that's on that device. So that pretty much concludes my portion. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Kevin.
Brian, thank you so much for that eloquent demonstration of augmented reality and of the mobile devices. I'm going to grab the screen and share. Nope, I think you need to stop sharing. All right, so Brooke, how do I request control and share my screen on this? There we go, share my screen. Whoops. One moment while I share the other monitor. Excellent. So in review, the nice thing about this slide is it's really a good summary of what we just walked through with Sade and Brian and Eduardo. We've actually seen the ability to view all of the assets on a map from a spatial perspective. Brian also showed the geospatial integration with the devices that can be used for the mobile component for the technicians. You can also connect all of the Internet of Things devices so that they automatically trigger workflows like Eduardo talked about for that flight sensor that kicked off workflow. I like the fact that Brian and Eduardo showed the integration of mobile devices. I know from speaking last week with a field artillery officer, one of the challenges that a lot of our DoD customers have is the lack of mobile functionality. So these tools that we're introducing and talking about today are available out of the box, and they include the mobile functionality for those customers that wish to use that component or that flexible interface and device size. The ability also to orchestrate all of the resources and the customers and the technicians like Brian showed you on that demo. And as Sade walked through, those prescriptive workflows and creating those checklists that technicians or inspectors need to go through the steps to ensure accuracy for the parts for mission readiness really is a nice component of the solution. Eduardo talked about the out-of-the-box reports. I think there's hundreds of them available, and they're absolutely flexible for customers to build on top of what we make available out of the box. And then finally, taking that data and capturing that data, modernizing the forms, either the PDF forms, the paper forms, or the spreadsheets that today are in use, and allowing users to enter data through a pane of glass and having that data go directly in without needing to explain how to use the form and what information is required. That's essentially the ServiceNow MRO solution that we walked through in the last hour. So I appreciate your time. At this point, I want to swing it back over to Brooke, who will open up the floor for questions, or if there are any in the chat. Brooke, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. There are a few, and we'll go ahead and use up the last bit of our time here. So I'll go with the first question. Can this integrate with our SAP ERP that we have in use today?
And I think we've got Eduardo. Do you want to speak
Yes,
to that?
and I can take this question. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can integrate with. We have a number of pre-built connectors to dozens of different apps, including SAP, that you can leverage to build connections to either pull data or export data to SAP or any other system application that you have with REST or web services API.
Wonderful, thank you. And we're putting up a closing slide as well. And in the meantime, we do have another question. Does this solution integrate with our existing technology investments? Kind of similar to the one above, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I can take this one as well. Yeah, it's a similar answer. Yes, we don't expect we're going to be able to replace every single one of your applications. You understand you already have large investments in ERP and some other databases that you want to continue to use. So our solution intends to work as we call it a system of action. So we can connect all those different applications, automate as many tasks as possible, but you still may use some of those existing applications as a system of record and send data back and forth into those applications.
Great, thank you so much. And we have another question coming in from one of our customers, Jen. Is this solution CAC enabled?
Yes, again, yeah, we can support CAC integration. We've done that with a number of DoD customers. We can configure the solution to have a single sign-on, which includes CAC technologies as well. Thanks.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and have this as our last question for the day. Can you streamline operations even more by leveraging barcode scanners?
I'll take that one, Eduardo. Absolutely. You can use barcode for a whole bunch of different things, including the ability to make sure they're working on the right asset. If they go into a building and they've got to work on something and there's 9 of them, making sure that they're standing in front of the right asset. So yeah, using barcode to increase data accuracy is a great way to improve the MRO function.
Awesome. Well, thank you, team. I want to thank all of our participants as well as our speakers for being with us today. You'll see on this slide here, we do have an evaluation survey for you all to fill out. It is that Google Doc form. You may click there, take you to a quick form just to let us know, give a little feedback on today's session. We also have our contact for MRO workshops below for any future sessions, as well as our speakers' contact information. If you guys want to reach out for a demonstration, have any more questions you'd like to take offline, we are absolutely here to support you all. Anything else we can do for you, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks, Brooke.